These are the three things we're going to be talking about: templates, managing interruptions, or housekeeping. I think you've seen me practice that a little bit already. And then engagement through Zoom. Zoom is best if you download the application in all of your devices. Doesn't matter what you use, download it in all of your devices. So that means your phone, your tablet, your computer. If you have more than one, it should be on every single computer. And you go to zoom.us.download. When you're conducting Zoom, as you will notice, I assume someone is logging in for the first time. So I try my best to go through the layout of the platform in terms of what it is that I want them to be able to engage in. For the four of us who have not yet stepped up to the paid account, please note of the investment that you would be making and what it offers. So I am on the 150 level, and for those who selected that you're on the free account, yes, you're able to still use it. You're able to do a meeting for 40 minutes. Sometimes they will allow you to be able to continue. Sometimes you're able to stop and then come back to it and continue. However, there are certain things that you will not be able to do. For example, engagement through the breakout room and other features. So that's why the paid account would be helpful. Let's start off with whether you have the latest version, and how you check whether you have the latest version is, remember again, you have the Zoom platform installed on your computer, laptop, or on your phone. Most of your phones are automatically going to go through the updates. On your computer, it's not like Windows updates where it knows that Zoom has made changes and it automatically will install it. At least that has been my experience. Some of you might have experienced something different. So often, and when I say often, you might think this is a joke, but probably weekly, especially someone like Craig who's doing it every single day using Zoom. I would say weekly. If you're not doing it as often, then probably check on the updates prior to you doing that Zoom meeting that you're going to either be attending, or you're going to be hosting, or you're going to be the co-driver. How do you check for updates? When you open up the Zoom account on your computer, then you go to where your picture is supposed to be on the right-hand side, and then you click on Check Updates. If you're doing that with me, it probably will find something, because just this week, they have done 2 updates already. And therefore, if you find some updates, just say you're going to update later, because it's going to kick you out if you wanted to install. So just today, we are version 5.7.3. On the Monday, or was it Monday? Yeah, Monday, they were at 5.731. So just in 1 week, they have had 2 updates. This is why you need to check for updates by going to where your picture is supposed to be on the Zoom application when you open it up at the top right, and then you click for Check Updates. So let me see. Okay, looks like the person renamed themselves. Oh, Josephine, you were just logging in on 2 devices. I get it now. Thank you, Josephine. I was just making sure that that got corrected. Wonderful. We then go into, you've checked your updates. The next thing I'm going to highlight real quick is your settings, just looking at your settings. And if I miss anything, when you log into the Zoom account, there's that spot for resources where they have training for you to be able to check out videos and also webinars as well. Let's go through your settings. The idea here is you're getting ready to be hosting a meeting, or you're going to be invited as a guest. So you need to also have some idea as to what it is you're able to turn on in terms of your settings. The first place I'm going to go first is on your actual Zoom account. So when you open, not Zoom account, sorry, your Zoom application on your computer, so that's that blue thing that looks like a camera that you're able to see somewhere at the bottom of your computer taskbar, if you have put it there, or when you open the application, this should look a little bit familiar to you. When you first open it up, this is what I have. So first thing I'm going to probably cover that I've been asked before is, Brenda, I'm able to see my meetings that I have, let's say today, tomorrow, and so forth. So anything you have scheduled on your calendar will kind of have a running list of what it is that you have scheduled already. But what are those recurring meetings? Where are you going to access them? When you scroll down to the very bottom, once again, you are at the point where you're setting up your own meetings, and some of them are going to be recurring. You're meeting with your team, you're meeting with anyone you partner up with or you collaborate with on a regular basis. Then recurring meetings are going to be when you scroll down on the left-hand side, all the way to the bottom is where you will see recurring meetings. Anything that you have, let's say weekly, monthly, quarterly, any of those that are recurring, almost like your calendar, are going to be at the very bottom of the screen. This is the same thing when you're accessing it on your phone. So I'm sure, Craig, that might be something that you already have in terms of recurring meetings. That's where you're going to see that. The other thing we want to talk about is your settings, and also something, sorry, I'm going to go to settings. I see there are a couple things I wanted to talk about first. I have experienced where I sent someone the meeting information. It has the link, it has the meeting ID, but the person just clicks on the link, right? So I've sent it to them on their phone, and now they want to attend the meeting using their computer. And they're asking me, Brenda, please email it to me. So this is where I'm helping you with that. Once the person shares the meeting information with you, it will generally come with three things. Obviously, the date, the time, and then what three things you're paying attention to is definitely the link, which you can click on. But it also comes with the meeting ID and the password. So for example, the person who is joining Josephine, for example, she might have clicked on the link to be able to join the meeting. And then on a second device, when you open up the Zoom application and you go to the home page, there's always that option for join. And when you hit join, this is where it will ask you, Brenda, enter the meeting ID. It's normally in that email confirmation. And if there's a password, you'll be asked to put that in. So if you ever send Zoom information, you don't need the link. All you need technically is the meeting ID and the password. Let me know if there are questions so far. Okay. Your Zoom application almost borrows same thing as what you might have experienced in Outlook, to where, or your Google Calendar, or any other calendar you use, to where you can turn on reminders, especially maybe, Craig, I'm speaking to you. If you have so many Zoom meetings that are, in a day, you probably might need an alarm on an alert to tell you, hey, your meeting is starting in a couple minutes. So Zoom does have that capability, and when you turn that on, it does have that reminder that pops up telling you, hey, Brenda, you need to start this meeting in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you set up, and I'll show you where you are able to turn that on in your settings. Last but not least, on your Zoom application itself is going through your settings. Settings can also be found on the website itself when you go to zoom.us. Settings is where you're able to check out all of this stuff. For today's session, I'm going to just highlight where you're able to check it and have you go and play around with it. For example, what's going to be your default camera option? What's going to be your default microphone? Do you want a virtual background when you log in? Where you're going to store your recordings? All that is going to be found here, including adding a picture or changing a picture to your profile. That's the Zoom application. Feedback, comments, questions. Okay.
Brenda,
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
So yours looks different than mine, probably because you have a paid version.
Not necessarily. Do you mean the Zoom app? This is the Zoom application on the computer itself.
Right. On my computer, I have Zoom, and I hit settings, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm scrolling down. Oh, okay. I see some of the different. Okay. Right now, then. Okay. I
Okay.
was looking at it wrong.
That's okay. That's okay. Let's now switch scenes a little bit. So what we are switching over is now your scenes online, meaning you're going to zoom.us, you're logging in. I briefly covered what things you are able to expect and or use on the Zoom application itself that is installed on your computer. Now we're going to talk about a couple of things that you need to go through on the website, because even from the Zoom application on your computer, some of the stuff will lead you over to the website. So we're going to go look at your Zoom account. And the reason why we're doing that is a couple of the things that you're going to enjoy in order to be a master at having the Zoom application working for you needs to be turned on or off on your actual settings. Right now, Brenda's journey is going through. I am on the Zoom account. I went to zoom.us and I logged in. Once I logged in, on the left-hand side, I am going through settings. So on the left-hand side of Zoom, I am starting off with settings. And the first thing you're going to see is Zoom now is paying attention to what? Security, because we want to make sure that the people who are part of your meeting are the ones whom you want to be part of that meeting. So after a lot of learning hiccups at the beginning of COVID era is where they had to pay attention to that. And in the security option, one of the things that I promised to talk about is the waiting room. The waiting room, just like it sounds, is you're somewhere and you're waiting to be let in. So picture yourself physically, you're outside the door and you're waiting to get in. What I'm going to be speaking of is you're the host about to let people in. What a couple of things you are able to set up, again, to manage your expectations for the people who are going to be attending with you. So the waiting room settings, in review again, I am on the zoom.us, you've logged in, you're now on settings. On the right-hand side, you're going to see waiting room. So it will automatically be under the meeting option. And then you're going to see waiting room. Under waiting room, these are a couple things that we're going to go through. Now, this is where for the 4 of you who have the free account, you might guide me as we go along, whether this is an option. Anything that is different is probably because we have the paid account and I have the first level, the 150, which covers me for the year. Craig, do you have the one that is the 150 for the year, or you have the other level?
I have a corporate one, so I don't know the exact level.
Good for you. So in the waiting room is where, in the waiting room options, you have edit options. And what does edit options go through? This is where you're going to decide for yourself in terms of who goes to the waiting room. I have the default of everyone. All of you started at the waiting room. There was a message prompted for you to read or not look at. And then when I'm ready, then I am able to let you in. So that's what we're able to accomplish in that. I don't use any of the other options because my meetings are usually open to anyone that I give the link to. So I have it as everyone. In reference to what you're able to read or provide to the people who attended the meeting, it's just giving them a heads up what's going on, that you're already in the room, you're just setting it up. You have the opportunity to set up what message do you want them to see. And for me, I have set in expectations. Hey, any of the materials that I say I'm going to share, please give me time to get it over to you. It shall get to you within 24 hours. Definitely Brandon is there with my logo. These are stuff that you are able to take advantage of in the waiting room. No, Tanya, this is your settings. This is your, how will I call it? Global, I guess, general settings, I guess is what I'm gonna call it. If you want to change it for every meeting, then you would have to go to the settings every single time and change it if you want to. For me, this is why this is generic. Hopefully that answered your question. This is your global settings. Okay. Mine didn't save, I had to retype. Okay, good feedback, good feedback. Thank you. Let me know, hopefully it works out. So custom waiting room, and then what do people see if the host hasn't started the meeting, right? They will normally see, please wait while the host is waiting to start the meeting. Check out your audio and your microphone. And then when you start, this is where they're able to see that meeting for them to look at it. Now on the side of the driver meaning the host, the person who's going to be conducting the meeting, or the co-driver, what they call the co-host, this is what we're going to be seeing on our side. Hey, host Brenda, you have this person who's in the waiting room waiting to be let in. And then I can admit or see in the waiting room. Why am I clicking on seeing in the waiting room is because sometimes like today, we might have 9 people who are going to attend, but I have Tanette to come in a little bit earlier and we do something. So you're able to allow individual people or everyone. This is the button that usually populates on the side of the host and the co-host. So we'll be talking about both individuals. Pretty much a co-host is a driver for that specific meeting. So what does that mean? If right now I wanted to make all of you as my co-drivers, I can. There's no limit. It's just specific for this meeting today. And once I make you as a co-host, then your view kind of changes and you're able to see a couple of things that you're able to do. You're able to do anything that I can do for this particular meeting. Feedback, questions so far? Notice I can send a message. I think Josephine saw that when I send her a message to the people in the waiting room. You have the opportunity to do so as well using the chat box. That's the waiting room. Let me know if you have questions, feedback. Okay, we keep going to now in terms of background sounds. So right now where I am still, if we are following along, is I am logged into my Zoom account and I'm going live right now to make sure we are on the same page. So when I log into my Zoom account, I'm still on the settings and there are just a couple of things that I am going through right now. If you're following along with me, this is where we are. We're still on the settings. We're still under meeting and I'm scrolling down here, walking you through a couple of things. Tanya, let me know if it's saved. I guess the only way you will be able to know whether it's saved is the next meeting. People will be able to see that particular message that you set up. Something has been presented to me on the chat. Let me check in. Josephine, I'm not sure what the question is. It's you're setting up what you want it to be. So her question is, Will it be generic? Can you personalize it? Remember, again, this is the global setting. And what that means is that every single meeting, the settings that we're going through are going to come along. If you want it to be special for every single meeting, then you need to come in here and do this every single time. Notice the look on my face. I don't think that's something that you want to do. That's why I'm hoping it will be generic. I would keep it generic. That's Brenda. But you have the opportunity to come in and change it here as often as you would like. Let's go on to, we're scrolling down. There are a couple of things that I'm definitely going to not address because I'm just pinpointing on why you're here. Probably the biggest one as you scrolled down is mute participants upon entry. So as you're scrolling down, I encourage you to just slowly go through it and you will come across mute participants upon entry. This is where I've toggled it over. Mine is blue, turned on, meaning that anytime somebody comes in to join a meeting, they're automatically going to be on mute. And then earlier, I showed you how Zoom is able to give you reminders. Hey, Brenda, your meeting is starting in 5 minutes. This is where you're able to toggle that over and have the opportunity for you to be able to select how early do I want to be reminded of this meetings. I have mine for 5 minutes. Okay, thank you, Tanya and Josephine. I've received your messages. Moving on to the next thing. So we've covered mute on your settings. The other 3 or 4, 3 here, 2 here that we're going to talk about. Co-host, turn that on. Whether you're going to ever use it or not, at least remember again, this is your global settings for every time you use your Zoom account to host or even attend. Co-host, I turn that on. Why? At any point when somebody's joining my meeting, remember again, they could be my co-driver. So I want to allow that capability for me to be able to assign who's going to be my co-driver for this meeting. So turn that on if that is an option for you. It will be helpful when you need it. Polls is the next thing we're talking about today. Turn that on as well in order to allow you to be able to set up polls or quizzes or surveys when you're conducting a meeting. So those are 2 that I'm going to talk about. We've talked about being able to mute. We've talked about the co-host. We've talked about the polls. I keep going down. Again, probably a big one is going to be sharing your screen or allowing others to share their screen, like what I'm doing right now. Some of the co-drivers will come in with a presentation. So this is where you're able to set that up. These are my settings right now. You can always switch it over to something different to where I have it turned on for sharing my screen or other screen sharing, and then all participants can share and anyone can start sharing when they are ready. This is the opportunity you're able to get that done. It's helpful when you are hosting a meeting and having co-drivers. Annotation is what I love. Honestly, I am so spoiled with annotation that even when I'm doing a meeting outside Zoom, I'm looking for my pencil now to annotate. So annotation, if you want to be able to do this when you are presenting, then turn that on. We've covered 2 things here. Screen sharing is turned on. Annotation is turned on as well if you want to be able to highlight a couple of things while you're presenting. Questions, feedback. For those of you who have the free account, let me know what is not showing on your side, but I believe all of these are, maybe except the breakout room, you'll keep me on track. As we keep going, the next thing for engagement and housekeeping is nonverbal feedback and or meeting reactions. Meeting reactions is the one where you allow, again, for people to engage with you. When you ask them a question, you can tell them, hey, click on your reactions and tell me how you feel about this. This is where you are able to turn it on, toggle it over to the right, highlighted in blue. That allows you to be able to maximize on that tool. That was it on your settings. Questions, feedback, comments. Yes, there's a lot. We're just focusing on what we need for today. Questions? Okay, now let's start with the process of setting up a template. So what we did was the global settings, which allows you to mute people, which allows for people to share their screen, which allows you to have a co-host, which allows you to set up polls. And what else did I cover? I covered a couple of the other stuff. I'm not quite remembering the entire list. Hopefully we're good on that track. Now we're going to go through the process of setting up a template. And the starting point for you to be able to accomplish this is you're literally going to be setting up the meeting. So the steps that you follow to set up a meeting. Now here, this is where the 4 of you who shared that you have a free account, tell me whether you will see the save template option. Again, for stuff like this, I take it for granted that you should have it even for the free account. Let me know. What are we doing here? We're setting up a template. How are we setting up a template? We have to schedule a meeting. How do you schedule a meeting? I am using the computer display. For the phone, it's a little bit different, but the steps are similar. When you log into your Zoom account, zoom.us, with your email address and your password, then at the top right, you will normally see schedule a meeting, or some of you are going to click on the one at the top. Both accomplish the same goal. When you click on schedule a meeting, you're going to go through the setup of your meeting. What is the title of your meeting? Do you want to describe it so that when people are registering and they're logging in, they have an idea as to what the meeting is going to be? When are you going to have it? How long? Do you want people to register? Do you want it to have a generic meeting ID, or do you want it to be the customized version, which is, for example, for me, my phone number, the 410-709-8337. So the personal meeting ID, I know that for a fact that on the free account, you're not able to get that. And right now, hopefully to provide some clarity, on the paid account, you can set up your own customized meeting IDs when you, or rather meeting ID, when you're setting up a meeting. So some of you might say, join me on Zoom, and the meeting ID is 410-709-8337, where you branded your own meeting ID. I use my phone number. That capability is on the paid account. So my meeting ID right now is the generic one, and then you will see template. This is where, for the 4 of you that shared, you have the free account. If you're following along with me, tell me whether that displays or not in terms of template when you're setting up a meeting. As I move along and waiting for your feedback, the next thing is you're setting up. Do you want people to go to the waiting room or not? My preference is they start off at the waiting room when I'm finishing up what I need to do. Video, audio, and meeting options. So I have mute participants upon entry automatically checked because I turned it on in my global settings. If I want to change it for this meeting, I can as well. And then you're going to go at the bottom and save. Questions, comments, and I guess if I pick on you, Sheila, did it show template when you were creating a meeting under the meeting ID?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I'm at the meeting ID. You talking about scrolling down under the meeting ID? Do I see templates?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
So that doesn't give us that on the,
Yeah, so the free account then doesn't have that. Thank you for letting me know. If there's anyone else who's checking it out and you have a free account, please let us know if we need to look at it somewhere else. Tanette is like, you know what, Brenda, I'm just going to pay for an account. I wish they had a referral thing. Then you would have been my referral client. So we have now set up the meeting. The idea is that you click on save. Once you click save, so Craig, for example, for you, if you're going to have, meetings with your team on a weekly basis, this is brilliant where you're able, once you hit save, so again, the steps is set up the meeting, save it. And then from there, you're going to access that meeting. So in your meetings that you've already set up, then you're going to access this. I don't know why the steps could not all be done in one place, but so you access that saved meeting. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, this is where you're going. This is where a lot of us miss it. Right here is where you're going to see save template. So again, you created the meeting, you hit save. And then, with me, hold on. And then from there, you are going to pull up the saved meeting. And then at the bottom of it, you're going to be able to click Save Template. Here's where I'm going to slow down a little bit. If you're
Brenda,
yes.
sorry to cut you off. I hit something else, so some kind of way I see on schedule meeting, and I'm able to hit save as template.
Okay, good. I guess mine was showing because I already have them. And that's what I'm gonna say. Yes, wonderful. So templates are available on this free account. Perfect. Thank you for letting me know, Sheila. Let me slow down in what I'm covering here. If your meetings, you want the polls as well. So Brenda is getting multiple layers here. If you want your meetings to have polls as well, which I'm going to go into, then you need to set up your poll as what you're seeing here. Polls are available here where you're able to set up to 25 polls or questions, and then you save the template. So Craig, if this is something you're now going to institute, and once again, you're going to be using polls or quizzes in your meetings, for example, a CE class, whatever it is, finish up setting the poll and then save template so that every other meeting that's going to be the same with the exception of the date and the time, the polls are already there. You good, Craig? Okay, good. Questions? Yep. Questions or feedback? We're gonna talk about polls next. Once I hit save template, then anytime I am setting up a meeting, all I need to do is, let me now go to the website itself, because this is where I wanted to show you like, what you could be experiencing on your side. So I'm going to the website, and the beauty of also Zoom is right now you might see my attention is on my screen, but you're really not seeing what I'm doing. So that's just another thing that you're able to do. For the host, when you're sharing your screen, you always have the button to pause. And pause is where I have paused my sharing of my screen so that you're not seeing me moving around. That's something that I always use. And then when I'm ready, I'll be able to hit resume share. Somehow we'll find it need to be. So this is where, sorry, I did it too many times. So this is where we are. Looks like it's telling me I need to do a couple of things. When you are setting up a meeting, let me see. Okay, looks like I can hear myself. Okay, when you're setting up a meeting, so this is where I just scroll down and I go to template. if I'm going to be setting up a meeting using any of these templates because it's the same material or rather same content, all I'm changing is the date. So now instead of August the 3rd, now my next meeting is September the 7th. It's going to be same time. I'm using the same information as what I have in my previous template. It's going to be for an hour and a half. I can change anything else. I hit save. Everything is saved with it. So I'm saving time using the templates. Feedback, questions, comments. Notice how quickly that was for me to set up another meeting at another date using my saved templates. This is almost like your drafts where in your email, you're copying and pasting. Okay, let's go through a couple of things as to what you're able to accomplish in terms of housekeeping. We've talked about templates. We've talked about turning on the co-host, turning on the annotation, and so on in your Zoom settings for the app and on your account. Here's where we're going to go through now. How do we manage expectations or housekeeping when you are conducting a meeting? I'm going to be showing both host and co-host what they see. First off, the person who's conducting the meeting, the host, needs to start off the meeting. It's almost like the driver needs to get in the car and turn on the car. And then anyone else who comes in, you can switch around in terms of who's going to be your co-driver. So once I start the meeting, then on the right-hand side is where I'm able to immediately, as the host, accomplish that one thing, which is making Renata my co-host. So how do I accomplish that? Once I start the meeting, I will go to participants, or on the video tile itself, you're able to right click on the person whom you want to be the host and say, whom you want to be the co-host or host, sometimes that happens. Then you click on co-host. So here's where you're assigning who's going to be your co-driver or co-drivers, because as I mentioned, you have the capability to assign that to as many people as you would like to be your co-drivers. What is their function? Either to be able to present, or sometimes they're the ones who are going to be helping you when you're speaking. So for example, if I'm doing a home buyer seminar with Tanette, we log in, I'm the host, she's the co-host. When she's speaking, I'm taking a step behind to where I'm making sure that if I see anything that needs to be addressed, like putting someone on mute, I'm able to do that. And anything else that she needs while she's speaking, I'm able to do that as a co-driver. And then we switch hats. Now I start talking and Tanette is helping me managing the room. That's what a co-driver is able to help you with. If you can, when you start off, have a co-host that will be able to help you with that at the beginning. So let's go through what is it that the co-host is able to do. I'm logged into this meeting. I have been set as the co-host. So this is what I am able to see. On the right-hand side is the chat. In the middle, I have a list of the people attending, and then we have the person's display. What I want to share with you as a co-host, you definitely have way more buttons at the bottom. You have the security option as a co-host, you have the breakout rooms as a co-host, you have the reactions, you have apps now that they have set up. So this is what the co-host is able to see. Keeping on track today, how will I know I am the co-host? On the right-hand side, when I'm looking at participants, next to my name, it will say co-host. So Nakia was the host for this meeting, and she made me the co-host. She could have easily made all 25 people as a co-host if she wanted to. Notice again, as a co-host, we get extra buttons that we're able to take advantage of. While I am a co-host, Anytime I am needed to help out with the meeting engagement or housekeeping, I go to participants, and then I'm able to do a couple of things. One, I could put Dawn, when we have a question for Dawn, I could say, hey, Dawn, could you speak on? And then I right click on her name and I'm able to prompt her to activate her microphone. So sometimes, as you might have experienced even yourself, you're attending a Zoom meeting and somehow your microphone button has disappeared. This is what a co-host is able to help you with, or you yourself as a host. Remember, I'm using those interchangeably. When you right click and hit ask to unmute, this is what they experience. So Sheila, right now you should see something because I'm activating it on my side, telling you, hey, could you unmute? So, yes. So on your side, you and Tanette would have received something telling you, please unmute. That's the experience you're going to have. And I see you're seeing it. So Tanette, describe what you saw.
Yeah, it's just like what you said, a box, and it says you could choose to stay muted or you can unmute. You have a choice.
Correct. Thank you. So it is just like a, I don't know, a ding that will be prompted to the person for them to activate their microphone. Like I clicked up. The other thing also host and co-host are able to do in the participants is, okay, I want to see some faces. So you can always ask people to start their video, or you can turn it off as well. So ask to start video is where when you want the person to be seen on video, host and co-host are able to do so. Rename is helpful because this allows you to rename. For example, Josephine, I'm just going to pick on you. You're using another device. You're not maybe logging in. You're able to rename, or you're using your children's device, someone else's device, and it's not you on that Zoom. You're able to rename it yourself in that particular meeting. Putting on waiting room is something that I like in terms of it's kind of like a timeout. If someone is not paying attention to what it is that you are talking about and it's disruptive, you can do a timeout and say, you know what, right now, Dee, we're going to put you on a timeout. You put them on the waiting room, they're taken out of the meeting digitally and then put in the waiting room. And then when you're ready to let them back in, you are able to let them back in. That's a good feature that could be helpful in some of the meetings we experience. All of what I'm showing you is what the co-host is able to do. On the participants icon, so when you click on participants on the right-hand side, you're only able to see this again when you're the co-host or the host, is where the very bottom of the screen, you have the option to mute all. That means everyone's microphone is turned off. And then right to the right of that is 3 dots. When you click on that, it gives you all of these options. Hey, everyone, let's be on speaker, or allow people to unmute themselves or not, rename themselves or not. What I like is this one, play sound when someone joins or leaves. Sometimes, for example, true story, I usually have a meeting weekly with, for example, Nakia, and I start the meeting and I start working on something else, and or a meeting with someone else, and I just, when they join, I want to make sure that it dings and lets me know, okay, Nakia is here, Brenda, get back to this. So that's how I use play the sound. I don't use it in all of my meetings. You can set it up in your global settings if you want that sound, a doorbell, to play when somebody comes and when somebody leaves. That's a choice. I want it normally for every meeting for me to be able to do so. And that's under participants. There's 3 dots on the right-hand side. Oh, I should have just shown you this. It was small for some of you. So this is where it is those 3 dots right to the right of mute all when you click on participants, and then you have all of these options. Feedback, questions, comments. Okay. So now we get to polls. We have about 5 minutes to get to polls. We're getting into setting up of the poll. Remember, the first thing that you've done is in your settings, you have gone ahead and turned on that, yes, I do want to be able to be using the poll. They have done a couple of changes, or not, yeah, I guess upgrades to the poll. And why don't we get to experience what a poll is, not assuming. Right now you have a poll displaying on your side, which is asking you, you are here to learn about, I should have asked this at the very beginning, but it is where you are just getting to get a feeling of how the poll works. I'm seeing on my side, 4 people have participated in it, and we're 8. So this is where normally with a poll, you can't tell who has not responded yet. It just gives you the time as to how much time somebody is still not seeing it yet, how much time we have. Okay. Looks like I have 5 right now. I think because of time, we are going to be good. I'm going to end it and show you the results. So right now, this is what the results I am seeing right now is. Someone was here, 1 person. On your side, I think it normally shows us percent. 20% were here, or 1 person was here for the housekeeping Zoom tips. 1 person was here for the polls, and majority of you were just like, Brenda, give me all. I'm just starting off. Let me see what is possible. That's how the polls work. So visually, what you experienced, it's a little bit different from what I have on my presentation because they updated it. So let's assume I'm skipping ahead right now and then I'll reverse. What usually happens is once you set up a poll, you as the host or the co-host will click on polls. The menu option will be at the bottom. If you have more than 1 poll, you will decide which one you want from the drop down. The next thing will be you launch the poll. Once you launch it, then you are able to see roughly how many people have responded. This is kind of what it looks like on my side. And then when I am displaying the results, you guys are normally going to see the percentages. On my side, I see how many people put in their answer. You're not able to see who while you're conducting the meeting, but in your Zoom reports, you are able to access that later in terms of what each individual presented as their answer. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how polls work. Let me go through. So Tanya, I'm going to say, when you say you don't have the poll option in your paid account, I'm probably going to assume it's because you have not turned it on. And then the second thing I'm going to talk about, Tanya, is how you see the polls. It's per meeting. So when you set up a meeting, for example, this one that I have set for September, when I scroll down to the meeting settings is where I'm going to see the polls. And then this is where you have the option to create. I'm going to look at your message on the chat box in about 5 seconds. So this is where I'm going to create. Now what they have updated, which is weird, is I think they should say name your poll instead of untitled poll, because people don't name, they skip it, at least in my experience when I've conducted classes. So untitled poll is the name of your poll in terms of what? The topic. So I could have the topic of why you here, how long have you been licensed, what have you done so far this week, whatever your survey is. And then you are able to put in the questions, and you could add as many questions as you can and hit save. Here's my experience. Don't put too many questions per poll. Why? We have a very short attention span. So my thing is that I will have a poll, one poll per time frame, meaning right now, if I had 3 polls, I would set each individually instead of adding them as a running list of questions. So I set up one poll, save it, save another, create another poll question, save it, because I'm going to be asking the questions at different times. People don't have the attention span to go through multiple questions in one go. So just a tidbit when you are using the poll. Let me see what you have for me, Tanya, and then we are getting ready to wind down. Go ahead, speak, but let me see what Tanya has. I don't have, how can you turn it on, Tanya? Is to go to your Zoom settings, and I'll go to that. Let me hear what Craig has. Go ahead, Craig.
No, I was just going to say thank you. I got to jump off for another Zoom call, but I appreciate everything. I learned a few things, and I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm about to be done anyway. I usually finish at 1. I'm just going to finish off with Tanya's questions. Thank you for being here, Craig. I'll see you around.
Take care.
You're welcome. So Tanya, this is going to be in your settings. Sorry, it's a little bit quicker for me to go back to the display of it. So you need to, okay, when you go to your Zoom settings, and again, this is where we went to. When you go to your, you've logged into your Zoom account, you go to settings, and then under meetings, you scroll down. You might need to be slow in your scrolling down because it's very easy to miss. You're then going to get to a spot where it's asking you for co-host and polls. So meeting, polls, and quizzes is where you need to have it turned on, Tanya. Try that. You're welcome, Josephine. You're welcome. Tanya, let me know if that worked out. Otherwise, we are at 1:01. I am very good with making sure it is within an hour. Hopefully you did at least learn one thing and you implemented it. That's the idea of these sessions. Forward to seeing you next Friday. Remind is a tool that is available on our MLS. I believe there are a couple of MLSs across the country that have it. So if you have Remind in your market, you are welcome to join us on next Friday. Otherwise, the following Friday, we have HomeSnap, which I believe is nationwide as well. It is not Maryland specific. These are tools that are usually attached to your MLS. I thank you so much for your time. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.